All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I am Sarabjit Kaur and with me is Saira Mujtaba. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to digitally launch the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana today. Indian Air Force to formally induct Rafale fighter jets in Ambala this morning. Supreme Court stays reservation for Marathas in government jobs and educational institutions in Maharashtra. EPFO decides to pay 8.5% interest during 2019-20. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar to attend SCO Foreign Ministers meeting in Moscow today. Japan calls for increased cooperation in the India-Pacific region to counter Chinese expansion. And in tennis, Serena Williams enters semi-finals of US Open for 11th consecutive time. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi will digitally launch the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana PMMSY today. Mr. Modi will also inaugurate the e-Gopala app, a comprehensive breed improvement marketplace and information portal for direct use of farmers. The Prime Minister will also launch several other initiatives in the fisheries and animal husbandry sectors in Bihar. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said, the PMMSY will transform the fisheries sector and add strength to the efforts of building an Atmanirbhar Bharat. The Prime Minister said PMMSY addresses critical gaps in fisheries sector and infuse latest technology into it. He said Matsya Sampada Yojana focuses on value addition and upgradation of critical infrastructure. Mr. Modi said the scheme will also boost welfare of those associated with fishing and create employment. A report.
The Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana is a flagship scheme for focused and sustainable development of fisheries sector in the country with an estimated investment of 20,050 crore rupees as a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat package. Is the highest ever in the fisheries sector. Mr. Modi will announce the establishment of a fish brood bank at Sitamarhi and an aquatic disease referral laboratory at Kishanganj. The Prime Minister will also inaugurate one unit fish feed mill at Madhepura and 2 units of fish on wheels at Patna under Blue Revolution. Mr. Modi will also inaugurate a comprehensive fish production technology center at Dr. Rajendra Prasad Central Agricultural University in Pusa, Bihar. The Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana is aimed at enhancing fish production by an additional 70 lakh ton by 2024-25, increasing fisheries export earnings to 1 lakh crore rupees, doubling income of fishermen and fish farmers. Anupam Mishra, AI News, Delhi.
The Indian Air Force will formally induct the Rafale aircraft this morning at Air Force Station Ambala. The Defence Ministry said the aircraft will be a part of 17th Squadron, the Golden Arrows. The first 5 Indian Air Force Rafale aircraft arrived at Air Force Station Ambala from France on 27th of July this year. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and Minister of the Armed Forces of France, Florence Parly, will be the chief guest for the event. After the ceremonial events, the Indian and French delegation will have a bilateral meeting. The Supreme Court has stayed reservation for Maratha community in government jobs and educational institutions in Maharashtra. A 3-judge bench headed by Justice L. Nageshwar Rao referred the case to a larger bench to consider the constitutional validity of 2018 Maharashtra government law providing reservation to Marathas in the state. Maharashtra State Reservation for Socially and Educationally Backward Classes Act originally provided 16% reservation for Maratha community in educational institutions and government jobs. The law was challenged before the Bombay High Court, which in June 2019 upheld its validity but reduced the quota to 12% in educational institutions and 13% in jobs. Appeals were filed before the Supreme Court, stating that the reservation would lead to a breach of the 50% cap laid down by the Apex Court in its 1992 judgment of Indira Sahani versus Union of India. Maharashtra government had on August 26 asked the court to place the matter before a larger bench, considering the fact that it involves determination of substantial legal questions.
The Labour and Employment Minister Santosh Kumar Gangwar yesterday chaired the 227th meeting of the Central Board of Trustees of Employees Provident Fund. In view of the exceptional circumstances arising out of COVID-19, the Central Board has recommended the same interest rate at 8.5% to the central government. It would comprise of 8.15% from debt income and the balance 0.35% capital gain from the sale of exchange-traded funds or ETFs, subject to their redemption by 31st of December this year. It further recommended to account such capital gains in the income of the financial year 2019-20 as being an exceptional case. The Central Board accorded approval for an amendment to Employees Deposit-Linked Insurance Scheme 1976 to enhance the maximum assurance benefit to 7 lakh rupees from the present maximum assurance benefit of 6 lakh rupees. The amendment will provide additional succor to families and dependents of members of the scheme in case of their unfortunate death while in service. On the occasion, Mr. Gangwar launched virtual hearing facility in quasi judicial cases under Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952 through video conferencing by use of secure IT applications compatible with desktop, laptop and mobile phones. The aim of integration of virtual hearing utilities with EPFO's e-court process on compliance e-proceedings portal eproceedings.epfindia.gov.in is to eliminate physical presence of parties in hearings before adjudicating officer, leading to ease and convenience for employers and employees to appear in hearings from remote locations of their choice.
The External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will attend the meeting of Council of Foreign Ministers of Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO) in Moscow today. The Council of Foreign Ministers meeting in Moscow will review the preparations for the forthcoming SCO summit and also exchange views on international and regional issues. This will be the third Council of Foreign Ministers meeting that India will be attending as a full member of SCO. India has been taking active part in various SCO dialogue mechanisms under the chairmanship of the Russian Federation this year. Yesterday, Dr. Jaishankar met his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov. In a tweet, Dr. Jaishankar said the talks reflected the special and privileged strategic partnership between India and Russia. He said he values their exchanges on the international situation. The minister also met his Kyrgyz Republic counterpart, Cengiz Ayderbekov. In a tweet, he termed the meeting as fruitful and thanked Mr. Ayderbekov for the support in facilitating return of Indian nationals. Both ministers discussed issues of bilateral and regional interest. The External Affairs Minister also had a meeting with Tajik Foreign Minister Sirojuddin Muhriddin. Dr. Jaishankar said he is pleased with the growing bilateral and regional cooperation. Japanese Defense Minister Taro Kono has called for increased cooperation in the India-Pacific region to counter Chinese expansion. Speaking at a webinar held by Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies in Tokyo, Kono pitched for a larger regional mechanism or global mechanism to counter China. Indo-Pacific region is largely viewed as an area comprising the Indian Ocean and the Western and Central Pacific Ocean, including the South China Sea. China's territorial claims in the South China Sea, its efforts to advance into the Indian Ocean, are seen to have challenged the established rules-based system. Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei and Taiwan have counterclaims in the South China Sea. In the recent years, Japan has expressed increasing concern regarding Beijing's activities in the region, especially concerning the situation with the disputed Senkaku Islands, known in China as the Diaoyu Islands and claimed by Beijing to be Chinese territory.
The Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a telephonic conversation with Saudi King Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud yesterday. The two leaders exchanged views on the global challenges in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Modi expressed his appreciation for the leadership provided by Saudi Arabia during its ongoing presidency of the G20 grouping. The leaders agreed that the initiatives taken at the level of the G20 had helped in promoting a coordinated response to the pandemic. They also discussed the main priorities presently on the agenda of the G20. The two leaders expressed their satisfaction at the state of bilateral relations between India and Saudi Arabia and committed to further strengthen cooperation in all areas. Mr. Modi expressed his special thanks to King Salman for the support provided to Indian expatriates by the Saudi authorities during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister conveyed his warm wishes for the good health and well-being of King Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud, other members of the royal family of Saudi Arabia, and all citizens of the kingdom. Minister of State for External Affairs V. Muralidharan attended the 10th East Asia Summit Foreign Ministers meeting yesterday. The meeting was held virtually. It was attended by the foreign ministers of the East Asia Summit participating countries and chaired by Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Vietnam. The meeting discussed ways and means to strengthen the leaders-led EAS platform and to make it more responsive to emerging challenges on its 15th anniversary. The ministers exchanged views on the current regional and international developments, including the COVID-19 pandemic and the cooperation to achieve a speedy and sustainable recovery. Mr. Muralidharan, in his remarks, appreciated Vietnam's efforts as ASEAN chair for providing continued stewardship towards a cohesive and responsive ASEAN during the pandemic. He underlined the key role played by EAS as a leading mechanism of the Indo-Pacific region and reiterated India's support to make it stronger and more responsive.
The Ministry of Education will organize a 2-day conclave on school education in 21st century under Shikshak Parv starting today through online medium. On the first day of the conclave, the focus will be on principal and teacher practitioners who will discuss how they have already implemented certain themes of the new education policy, NEP, in creative ways. National awardee teachers and other creative teachers will be a part of this conclave. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the conclave on 11th September. In the 2-day conclave, discussions by expert practitioners will be held to demystify some of the important themes of NEP for school education. Shikshak Parv is being celebrated from 8th September to 25th of September to felicitate teachers and to take the new education policy 2020 forward. The ministry will organize a series of webinars on NEP and its implementation. In these webinars, various important themes of NEP will be discussed by experts.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to digitally launch the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana today. Indian Air Force to formally induct Rafale fighter jets in Ambala this morning. Supreme Court stays reservation for Marathas in government jobs and educational institutions in Maharashtra. EPFO decides to pay 8.5% interest during 2019-20. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar to attend SCO Foreign Ministers meeting in Moscow today. Japan calls for increased cooperation in the India-Pacific region to counter Chinese expansion. And in tennis, Serena Williams enters semi-finals of US Open for 11th consecutive time. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
India has scaled a new high of nearly 75,000 recoveries of COVID-19 in a single day. The total number of people recovered from coronavirus has surged to a record 74,894 in the last 24 hours. With this, nearly 34 lakh people in the country have recovered from the viral pandemic. The overall recovery rate has also maintained its upward trend and has now reached 77.77%. The Health Ministry has said the constant increase in recoveries have ensured that the actual caseload of the country is reduced and currently comprises only 20.53% of the total positive cases. The number of recovered patients has overtaken the active cases by nearly 3.8 times. The Health Ministry has informed that the sustained high recovery rate is fueled by 9 states and union territories reporting recovery rate of over 80%. These states include Bihar, Tamil Nadu, Delhi, West Bengal, Rajasthan and Gujarat, among others. Currently, India's case fatality rate is at 1.69%. There are 17 states and UTs in the country which have reported fatality rates lower than 1%. Presently, the total number of active corona cases in the country is 8,97,394. In the last 24 hours, 1,115 deaths have been reported, taking the toll to 73,890. Recording a rise of 23,816 new cases, Maharashtra's coronavirus tally is slowly inching towards the 10 lakh mark. With a caseload of 9,67,349, the state's active cases stand at 2,52,734. According to the state's Public Health Department, the death toll has increased by 325 to reach 28,787. A total of 13,906 patients were discharged during the day, leading to total recoveries of 6,86,462. Mumbai recorded 2,227 new cases, leading to a total of 1,60,744 cases. The city has 25,665 active cases, while the total number of fatalities has risen by 43 to stand at 7,975. Meanwhile, a 10-day-long Janta curfew has been announced for Sangli district from 11th of this month to contain the pandemic. Sangli's district collector Abhijit Chaudhary has appealed to citizens to stay at home during this period. Stating that the curfew will be totally voluntary, the administration has urged all establishments except milk, medicines and hospitals to shut their shops. Sangli reported a spurt of 719 during the day, leading to total active cases of 8,356.
In Gujarat, 1,329 new cases of COVID-19 were recorded in the last 24 hours. Our correspondent reports that the recovery rate has further improved to 82.01% in the state.
More than 30 lakh 1,000 tests have been carried out in the state till date. Out of 1,329 new cases, the maximum 174 new cases reported from Surat city. At present, 16,328 active cases, out of which 94 patients are on ventilator. 1,336 patients have been discharged from various hospitals after recovery. 16 patients have lost their lives yesterday, taking the total death to 3,152. Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation has decided to start BRTS and city bus services full-fledged from today outside the containment zone. Yogesh Pandya, Air News, Ahmedabad.
In Madhya Pradesh, COVID recovery rate has improved to 76%. The fatality rate has come down to 1.4% from 2.4%. At present, there are more than 17,000 active cases in Madhya Pradesh. More from our correspondent.
Additional Chief Secretary Health Mohammad Suleiman informed that there is no problem of beds availability, but necessary arrangements are being made for coming months. About 55% ICU beds are occupied in cities like Bhopal and Indore. About 21% of the patients with symptoms of COVID-19 are under home isolation. The number of COVID-19 cases in the state climbed up to 79,192. The death toll rose to 1,640. As per the State Health Bulletin, 1,341 coronavirus patients were discharged from the hospitals yesterday. There are now 17,702 active cases in Madhya Pradesh. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
In Chhattisgarh, sero-surveillance will be conducted to know the status of herd immunity in people against coronavirus. The survey will begin from September the 16th and will be in 2 phases. In the first phase, samples will be taken from 10 districts of the state. 9 districts will be covered in the second phase. 500 samples will be collected from each district. These samples will be taken from selected clusters as well as from persons belonging to high-risk groups. This survey will be conducted by ICMR and the Health Department of Chhattisgarh. The objective of the survey is to identify people who may have contracted COVID-19 and have already recovered from the disease without realizing it. Meanwhile, in view of the increasing cases of corona infection in Chhattisgarh, a central team started visiting various districts. The team of National Centre for Disease Control (NCDC) has visited Durg and Rajnandgaon districts. The team members reviewed the facilities of treatment of corona-infected patients in these districts as well as the arrangements in COVID hospitals.
In Odisha, COVID fatality rate has slumped to 0.43%. Expressing satisfaction over the progress, Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik has directed further intensification of enforcement measures to limit the spread of the virus, particularly in districts like Khorda and Cuttack. More details from our correspondent.
Amid the ebb and flow of the viral transmission, the state government has authorized the district authorities to decide on the closure of COVID care centers and temporary medical camps depending on the decline in COVID-19 cases in their respective jurisdictions. The authorization is consequent upon the significant turnaround achieved by districts like Ganjam, Gajapati, Sundargarh and Korap. The government is also focused on expanding the COVID care and cure facilities. The Bhubaneswar municipal area, falling under the Khorda district alone, accounts for more than 5,000 active cases with a view to checkmating the spread of the virus with a corresponding spread of awareness. The Bhubaneswar Municipal Corporation has operationalized its helpline number 1929 round the clock. Girish Chandra Das, Bhubaneswar.
In Karnataka, 9,540 new COVID-19 cases were reported in the state yesterday, taking the tally to 4,21,730. Among the new cases, Bengaluru reported with the highest number of 3,419. 42,200 active cases are under treatment in various hospitals in Bengaluru city. More on this from our correspondent.
As per the State Health Bulletin, so far 3,15,433 people were cured from COVID-19 and discharged from the hospitals, which includes 6,860 people discharged yesterday. As of now, 99,470 active patients are taking treatment in various hospitals. Among them, 776 are in ICU. The total fatality has risen to 6,808. 70,322 COVID tests were conducted in various hospitals. R. Murthy, AR News, Bengaluru.
Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Edappadi Palanisamy has said a decision on reopening of schools will be taken only in consultation with the parents. A report on this.
Reopening of schools remains a tricky issue as fears about the safety of children lingers among the parents and the government. The Chief Minister has asserted that the government would take a call in the matter only as per the wishes of the parents. Observers say this only indicates that the reopening may not be in the immediate vicinity. Meanwhile, a government order stipulates schools to suspend online classes for 5 days from the 21st of this month. The break for the brief period is considered an equivalent of giving the usual quarterly vacation for the students. Jai Singh, AR News, Chennai.
Meanwhile, in Tamil Nadu, the total COVID-19 infection has gone up to nearly 4.8 lakh, as stated in the Health Department's latest media bulletin. The recoveries crossed 4,23,000 yesterday.
The monsoon session of Gujarat Legislative Assembly will begin on the 21st of this month. A decision to this effect was taken at a cabinet meeting chaired by Chief Minister Vijay Rupani in Gandhinagar yesterday. Legislative and Parliamentary Affairs Minister Pradeep Singh Jadeja said that about 24 bills and amendments will be tabled during the 5-day session. He said that the government has urged the Speaker not to include the question hour. Instead, the Speaker can allow short notice questions after discussing them with the concerned ministers. He said that a resolution hailing the contribution of Corona warriors will also be brought during the session. Mr. Jadeja said that COVID-19 tests will be conducted on everyone and entry will be given only if the test comes negative. The Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Edappadi Palanisamy has said the state government is taking stern action against those responsible for the multi-crore rupee scam in the PM Kisan Samman Nidhi scheme. Talking to reporters in Tiruvannamalai, he said the scam has been reported in 13 districts in the state. He said the CBCID police are investigating the case, adding the funds misappropriated in several cases are being recovered. He said the enlisting of 5 lakh people as beneficiaries in the scheme in just 4 months raised suspicion, leading to the investigation by the State Agriculture Department. 18 people have been arrested in the case so far and 81 contractual staff of the department have been terminated from work. He said departmental action is being initiated against 34 officials. The BJP, which is the alliance partner of the ruling AIADMK in the state, and the principal opposition DMK have charged that lakhs of ineligible people are being enlisted as beneficiaries of the scheme, misappropriating hundreds of crores of rupees.
The Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports, Kiran Rijiju, has announced that shooters of all categories, elite, developmental and Khelo India, will be given ammunition and targets from Dr. Karni Singh Shooting Range and other accredited academies so that they can continue training at their home range. Mr. Rijiju visited Sports Authority of India's National Centre of Excellence, Dr. Karni Singh Shooting Range, KSSR, in New Delhi and interacted with shooters yesterday. The minister said, owing to coronavirus, athletes are facing difficulty going to their facilities and this decision will help them to continue training in their nearby academies. Speaking about the decision, Mr. Rijiju said it is important that athletes, especially 2024 and 2028 Olympic probables, get a chance to continue their training wherever they are in the country. He added they may not be able to visit KSSR or other academies owing to the COVID-19 situation. Under the Ek Bharat Shresht Bharat program, Telangana and Haryana states have achieved synergy and artists, students and literary personalities learnt arts, language and culture of each other to a large extent. Here is a report from our correspondent.
Telangana and Haryana states have taken up several activities under the Ek Bharat Shresht Bharat program and achieved the objective to a large extent during the past few years. Launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2015, the program provided the two states a perfect platform to promote the spirit of national integration and learn each other's language, art, culture, literature. Telangana Language and Culture Department Director M. Hari Krishna informed,
we have invited the Ghumar artists of Haryana to Hyderabad and we made them to learn the very folk, traditional, tribal art form of Lambadi, which is a Banjara style of dance form. We have published some of the Telangana poems into Hindi. We have organized that photography cultural exchange program with the kind support and guidance of Government of India.
Lakshmi, AR News, Hyderabad.
The interstate bus services between Uttar Pradesh and Delhi will resume today. Uttar Pradesh government has given its nod for resumption of interstate bus services from the state. Chief Minister's office said that in a bid to provide easy and accessible transportation to the public, Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has given permission for resumption of interstate bus services to Rajasthan, Haryana and Delhi. In the US Open, Serena Williams has pulled out another three-setter to reach the semi-finals in an 11th consecutive appearance. Williams trailed by a set and a break against Svetlana Pironkova before coming back to win 4-6, 6-3, 6-2 last night in Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York. Two more victories for Williams and she will claim a record-tying 24th Grand Slam singles title. Williams last lost before the semi-finals in New York all the way back in 2007 when Justine Henin eliminated her in the quarterfinals. The American, who turns 39 in less than 3 weeks, has won a total of 6 championships at the US Open.
And now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. The national capital Delhi is expected to have strong surface winds. The temperatures minimum at around 27 degrees, maximum around 36 degrees. Mumbai will have a temperature of minimum of around 27 degrees, while the maximum will be around 34 degrees Celsius. Chennai, minimum temperature around 25 degrees, and the maximum will be around 33 degrees.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. Most newspapers today lead with the suspension of global trials of the experimental COVID-19 vaccine. Hindustan Times headlines, AstraZeneca pauses vaccine trial after unexplained illness in UK participant.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to digitally launch the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana today. Indian Air Force to formally induct Rafale fighter jets in Ambala this morning. Supreme Court stays reservation for Marathas in government jobs and educational institutions in Maharashtra. EPFO decides to pay 8.5% interest during 2019-20. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar to attend SCO Foreign Ministers meeting in Moscow today. Japan calls for increased cooperation in the India-Pacific region. And in tennis, Serena Williams enters semi-finals of US Open for 11th consecutive time. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.